Okay, we'll tell you. Don Lemon's arrest has sparked a national debate over press freedom in the United States. The former CNN anchor was arrested and charged with federal civil rights violations related to his coverage of an anti-ICE protest at City's Church in St. Paul, Minnesota, where he was documenting demonstrators who disrupted a church service led by an ICE officer serving as a pastor. Allegedly, right? He said that he was with a group, if I'm not mistaken, and that they were going to take an action and he was going to report. And next thing we know, he's reporting from inside the church, and he's even trying to interview the pastor who moments before that interruption, he was in a service, leading a church service. I frowned upon that 100%. Like, I'm a member of the press, but I would never go into any place of worship and disrupt what I feel is one of the most precious, holy moments between a human being and their faith. That is one of the most holiest things. We may not agree with how people are practicing religion, but that is one of the most holiest places. And I don't think there's a circumstance in which that should ever be interrupted.
Yeah, it's a civil rights violation. I mean, that's a First Amendment violation. When you stop somebody from their practice of religion, or you stop them from their free speech, that's a violation, I believe, of the FACE Act, and that's that's something that we learned through this, right? And I don't know too much about the FACE Act, but this is the first time I'm actually hearing those words, right? That the FACE Act, I always knew it as, your First Amendment right and stuff like that. But I guess there's more to it, and I definitely need to look more into it. But it makes sense to me. You have no right to shut somebody else up or stop them from expressing themselves, whether it's their religious practice or their voice. You don't have the right to do that, Don Lemon.
And where's the whole thing about taking accountability for disrupting a service, scaring, like some of these protesters and their way of protesting, especially when we're talking about when somebody's in a place of prayer, worship, they're probably in a most relaxed space that maybe their body can muster in that moment. You might be interrupting the only sacred moment a human being has in their entire week, because look at how complicated all of our lives are. And when we're in that state, our field is open. We know this. There's a lot of people who feel, people coming in and out. So imagine being so open to receive like a flower, and all of a sudden, angry energy storms in, screaming. That can create PTSD for people.
Yeah.
I absolutely do not condone it under any circumstances. I don't. I like, it was like, deal with, because let's just say the pastor, you're the person was like, oh no, we found out that the pastor or the priest or whoever's doing it is a pervert of some kind, and we want to like capture him. But you still got to think about place and time and everybody else. You got to think about everybody else and how your actions might be infringing upon, like you said, the rights of everybody else. So press freedom groups and civil rights organizations have condemned the arrest, calling it an unprecedented attack on the First Amendment. Legal experts are noting that there's no constitutional journalist immunity from prosecution, but many emphasize that charging a reporter for covering a protest is extremely rare and could chill press freedom. Ironic, because there's a lot of attacks on press freedom in many ways, right? So how did Don Lemon blur the line, and how many of us blur the lines? And this is part of the press freedom fight and the press fight and indie grassroots new media, because the times that we're living in are calling for this type of reporting to a sense of degree, especially when we do not have faith and people have lost faith in mainstream media. So then a person on the ground is wearing multiple hats. Ultimately, as you already heard me, I don't agree with Don Lemon walking into that space, but I will stand for press freedom and defend Don Lemon and saying I don't think that he should get arrested. Maybe the example he's experienced is an example enough, but I just I
Do you know what he actually did? Did he like blockade them? Did he stop them, or he was just asking questions?
Well, he went in with the protesters, and because he went in with the protesters, then part of the argument is you became an activist at that point, and you were with the group, not reporting.
Okay.
Like you were in on it, and there are moments in where he's seen on cameras conveying that he knows something's gonna happen. So it's like it's blurring the line of journalist activists.
Yeah.
But that line didn't start getting blurred with Don Lemon. It's gotten blurred many years ago already. It's just that in the collapse of it all, this is one of those areas that's also needing to be looked at. And because it's such a gray area, because to me, like, you know, Don Lemon may have irritated many humans, but the type of vitriol that he's getting from people just seems like a bit too much. It just feels like, are you really conservative commentators and news people? You're wasting your time just being so nasty covering Don Lemon. There's so many other things to fuss about.
Yeah, and I want to be clear. Like, I didn't know exactly what he did, but from what I was gathering, and I should have did more research on this. But listen, I agree with allowing journalists to be journalists, but like, I don't agree with if he was stopping it in any way or if he was part of any interruption of it. That's a problem. But if he personally didn't interrupt it, right, that's not an issue. So
Well,
I
the
don't know.
thing is that, but that's why it's blurred, right? So, the people of the press they're saying, like I said, legal experts are saying there's no constitutional journalist immunity. For example, like in the Free Press, right? They published an article a couple of days ago. What's the headline? Freedom of the press won't protect Don Lemon. Obstructing worshipers in church is a crime. But it will be hard to prove Lemon did so or others knew would. Again, why? Well, it's going back to what I was saying. We're in this blurry line. And unfortunately, because at that protest, he is the most recognizable face, then he carries the burden of all of that in the response and national attention and reaction.